Swift will be replaced by XRP, as I've observed on Twitter. XRP to 10,000, correct? Would XRP be 10,000 if Ripple and XRP were to replace Swift? We will discuss this, the data, and the facts that support the data. There are a few more issues that need to be addressed as well. This piece was ideal because it covered a lot of the topics I wanted to discuss today, including XRP and Escrow that has already been assigned. The significance of the US Reserve will be astounding for banks. We really need to talk about a few things here. Alright, let me start by talking off. Let me just say that the value of the USA Reserve alone will be astounding. Initially, President Trump was unaware that the United States lacked XRP, Solana, and ADA when he posted on Twitter about them being placed to the Strategic Reserve. In Pennsylvania, I did see an FBI raid. I believe they seized about $300 worth of XRP. It's definitely not a jaw-dropping amount. Right now, the only ways the US could obtain XRP would be to seize it from a criminal, have Ripple give it to the US government, or have Congress step in so taxpayer funds could be used. I am aware that they are trying to find ways to save money so that they can purchase more Bitcoin, not to purchase XRP. Additionally, telling individuals that the USA alone will lose value will be detrimental. With the facts we currently have, this is not true. Additionally, this individual mentioned that banks and escrow at XRP are already covered. This is something I've seen used a lot. What I have to say about this is, why does Ripple re-lock up XRP since, as you know, XRP in the escrow is already taken and accounted for? You are aware of what occurs when the escrow unlocks every month, right? Typically a billion XRP is unlocked, isn't that right? Ripple chooses what to do with the XRP when it has been unlocked. Ripple would just move the XRP to the bank that was spoken for if it had previously been spoken for, right? Whose XRP is that? A bank owning that XRP wouldn't make sense, but Ripple thought, hey, you know what? Good luck, huh? We're going to relock this XRP for another 3.5 years. Since there are 37 billion XRP in escrow, 1 billion is unlocked each month. It will take you an additional 37 months to cycle through the XRP that you recently relocked. Therefore, I disagree with this. Even if I completely disagree with this, I'll let you decide for yourselves. He is right about one thing. XRP has a high value price. Swift's volume would take over if XRP and a Ripple were to actually take over. The question now is, how much does it cost each day? Correct? We only have estimates. And due to the velocity of money, it does alter as you go from daily to annual. Let me now demonstrate this for you, will I? Given that XRP may be reused relatively quickly, these calculations show that if Ripple were to manage $5 trillion every month in a circulating supply of 58 billion, that would be 8,621 per XRP. However, it does provide a staggering price of 21,551 per coin when you look at the annual scenarios. I then asked myself, is this right? Why would you offer me 21,000 for the annual scenario after giving me 86? Thus, there are some notes here. Simple theoretical models assume that all Swift transactions are promptly transformed to XRP demand and that there is no money velocity. That is, that each XRP is utilized just once for each transaction, and neither regulatory considerations nor speculation about market liquidity are involved. I then asked, reviewing the annual scenario, you are stating that the price of XRP would be how much if Ripple XRP were to handle $1.25 quadrillion in payments annually? Because it did repopulate the same amount after I questioned this. Recognize that these AI models are extracting data from the internet. You would have to do this. Look at the precise sources from which all of this originated. However, these are some of the sources from which it drew for information as it was putting everything together. I therefore wanted to explore what a conversation GPT might produce using the same numbers. I therefore employ the exact same words and expressions. Additionally, it states that the annual value is between 1,200 trillion and 1,500 trillion, or 1.2 and 1.5 quadrillion. Here is the daily after that. For example, if you check at $94, you'll see that this one came up with a pretty similar amount of $86. However, because it has more, it includes greater value when you go to the annual. At $34,000, the question is whether Ripple will quickly take over. I find it to be a really difficult pill to take. Though keep in mind that not all payments will require XRP, I believe that Ripple might step in and assist speed things up with things like FX and some other forms of payments. Domestic payments will likely make up a significant portion of this, correct? Perhaps a stable coin would be more appropriate for this. Therefore, I don't think XRP or Ripple will receive all of the Swiss value. It might be helpful in my opinion, but I believe there will be anything like H-bar Algorand. I believe that more cryptocurrency assets such as XLM will also be transferred throughout the SWIFT system. Although I doubt there will be a single winner, I wanted to show you the math and what would happen if they did win everything. However, I don't believe that one cryptocurrency business will be able to achieve everything. However, payments are one thing, aren't they? When it comes to cross-border payments, I really believe that XRP is a fantastic option that will truly improve the world. It will lower the cost of payments quicker and safer. However, we're also considering tokenized treasuries, correct? And the addition of tokenized value to the chain. And some of the most significant effects may occur here. Let me demonstrate. The debate over whether or not Web3 structured materials are important will only get more heated, and it won't have anything to do with politics. It will be cost-effective. Thus, when there was a significant quantity of U.S. treasuries maintained in the Web3 format, like a stablecoin, that's when stablecoins became a very popular topic here in DC. Therefore, this Web3 smart contract stablecoin container was designed with a huge quantity of treasuries. That will only become worse. There are currently between Saudi Arabia and South Korea, or possibly even more U.S. treasuries. Take a quick look at this. The U.S. Treasury is being actively sold by China mainland, the country's second largest buyer. Because some of these nations are watching what the U.S. is doing at the moment and are not happy about U.S. debt. Scott Bessent, the U.S. Treasury Secretary, and Trump are discussing the possibility of stabilizing the bond market through stable coins and cryptocurrencies. In fact, several of these nations are selling those treasury bonds rather than purchasing them, which will result in a net loss. If some of the largest bond buyers in the world are suddenly selling rather than purchasing, that is a serious issue that might lead the U.S. financial system to implode. Therefore, you need a new buyer on the other end that sell. That is an issue of national security. Okay. Therefore, when you see the U.S. Treasury bond market, if we woke up one day and all $28.6 trillion ended up on tour, the value of each token would be an incredible amount that would retire. If someone owned 500,000 or 5,000 of those tokens, they would retire because when you use the multiplier effect, you can add $10 trillion, $5 trillion to any blockchain, and that could hit you 50, 100x whatever value. So if you brought on $1 trillion, additionally, if you added in $5 trillion of real value, you would be at a $250 trillion market cap, which would push XRP well into the 4-digit range. If you had a 50x multiplier, instead of 1 trillion, which would look like 50 trillion on the market cap, you would have a 100x, which would be 100 trillion. Okay, let me complete this. However, it's only getting worse. Eventually, stable coins may surpass all other holders of U.S. treasuries as the most popular way to own and use U.S. However, all other assets will also come to that awareness. There is a ton of pretty amazing material there, man. It's great that I could demonstrate to you how to use MOONSHOT to generate passive income. I wanted to talk to you about a really special idea that will generate daily income by giving MOONSHOT liquidity. See the process and join MOONSHOT.